Okay, thank you all very much for coming today. This presentation today is on South Africa, the extended learning opportunities, so we will be talking about that very shortly. The first thing I would like to do, though, as we have everybody gathered right now, is to take a moment. This is actually kind of it's an update for us many years ago, 14 years ago. And so I got up to 9/11, saw it on the news again, going through some of the images. And so in memory of that day, to have a little bit of reverence about that day, what I would like to do is take a moment of silence to honor all of those folks that were affected. And I think we could say there were billions affected, but also those immediately, the first responders, those that died in the events. So if we could take just a moment, please, and have some reverence for that. Can you do that? Good night. Thank you. Now, let me have your attention again. One more moment. This seems to be a really perfect time. Guys, please. Everybody. Folks. Related to today is a kind of a really remarkable thing in my mind in New Hampshire. It happens the Saturday following 9/11, so tomorrow. This will happen tomorrow. And this has been going on for several years, going back to obviously the events since 9/11. And what happens is, you guys are familiar, of course, with the 48 4,000-foot peaks in New Hampshire, right? Yes? Probably many of you climbed those. I've done those. And on Saturday, following 9/11, there are 48 teams, volunteer teams, hikers. And what they do, and this really gets me, what they do is they lug up these 4,000-foot peaks, flag staffs of anywhere from 15 to 25 feet, broken down in sections, packed up, and they carry an American flag with them. And they hike up on top, and they get this thing lashed up, and they put this flagpole up, and they fly it on all 48 peaks across the state for 2 hours. And people from all over the country, Canada, come walking, and they come hiking that day for that reason. And they're all volunteers. You go up in any particular, in terms of weather, beautiful day, perhaps tomorrow, years past, it's been rainy, it's cold, windy, and these people still go. It doesn't happen. They know it's that they're driven to do this. And I want to real quickly recognize a person that we have at our school that does this every year. And it kind of flies underneath the radar right now. And she leads a team every year, and is leading a team again tomorrow. And I'm sure we'll do it again next year, the year after, as long as she can walk. So is Kathy Vier in the audience here anywhere? Is she here? This V. You guys know this V? All right, one other quick introduction before we get to actually the individuals, the team that went to South Africa. I am absolutely ecstatic. I've got a visitor here today, a guest, first time ever at Bow High School. And so I would like to introduce the Alaskan artist. She's a painter from Alaska. She is also a Bass Pro muralist. Goes all across the country, painting those beautiful murals in the new Bass Pros, and she's going to be speaking with our art students later on today. And coincidentally, happens to be my sister, Susan Watkins, please. Okay, so now on to today's big event, and I would like to thank all of you for coming into this. Certainly the faculty, my colleagues for allowing the time, from their classes, all of you guys for being here, and our guests, of course, for coming over. I'd also like to thank Mr. Hausmeyer and Ms. Frost, and also the Bow and Hopkinton school boards for supporting us in this endeavor. And it is an extended learning opportunity, South Africa Extended Learning Opportunity. It's a full-year immersion course. It's a full-year course into the culture and ecology that is South Africa. More specifically, we were in a chunk of land known as Djuma, which is part of the greater Kruger area, park area. The final exam for this course culminated in a 3-week exploration into Djuma, that part of South Africa. This venture between Hopkinton and Bow is the first time that I'm aware that two schools combined effort joined together in a common academic goal. And perhaps cutting a path to provide greater opportunities for students than an individual school might be able to provide. And I'm reminded of a theme, sophomores this year, the ripple effect. The ripple effect, oh no, ripple effect. Yeah, that's over. No, guess what, it's not. It's going to continue to come back. And I reflect upon the ripple effect, and I reflect upon this experience, and I think, and I hope that our students that went to South Africa dropped a little pebble in South Africa, initiating ripples. And I am quite certain, very certain, that South Africa has dropped a pebble in each of us who attended. We experienced a lot more than hundreds, or if you know, maybe thousands, of camera shots of amazing creatures, beautiful people, landscapes you saw on the way in. We witnessed everything from human experience at different economic levels or different priorities in their lives than our own. We worked together alongside South African high school students and villagers, and sadly, we observed direct evidence that poaching almost certainly means the extinction of the rhinoceros, both black and white species, in the next 15 years, maybe sooner. Can you imagine that? No rhinos? So our presentation today is broken into parts. We have the journalist team. They documented the journey for others. We have the art guild, who focused on creativity in the South African culture. We have the anthropologists, who focused on research, focused on human connections, both past and present. We have the math guild, and the math guild focused on research, data collection, and GIS. We have the naturalists, concentrating on the interactions of the South African ecology. And finally, unbeknownst to many of us, we were subjects of a study in small group dynamics. Oh, and we took some pictures too, right? So let me introduce our team. First, we'll start with our Hopkinton guests. We'll start off with Carmen, and I went online last night, so I knew how to pronounce this. Repucci. So please stand. Look at these guys stand up, and you hold it for us. Gabrielle Price. Gabby Price. Zach Kratos. Not with us today because she's a college freshman, is Madeline Goodmore. Holly Sharon on the faculty at Hopkinton in special education. Not in the news this morning, but later this afternoon when we go to Hopkinton is Kelly Smith, is supporting adult who's with us. Scott Simmons. Please stand. Scott Simmons, I wrote a little note here, to whom I am so grateful and thankful that he had the vision to propose that Bow and Hopkinton come together. So thank you, Scott. You guys can sit. Oh my gosh, I have it! Declan Campbell. I got that. Can't forget Declan. From Bow High School, already standing. We have Michelle Neal and Nana Vig, guys, and then continuing on. don't see anybody here. Sam Pepin. Robert. And MIA today would be Delaney Corthell, who's college Maine, I think, right now. It's a freshman. And then, and you guys remember this Duhane guy? Everybody? So Marcel Duhane, Mr. Duhane, is not a college freshman. He's actually in his first year at a school in North Carolina. So we wish him as well. All right, very quickly, a couple more, and then we're ready to roll. We also had the opportunity to work with the South African students, stayed with us for 3 weeks. Emma Lavasi, did I say that right? I've slept since then, so you would like me to get up here. Also, I'm so excited, did not expect, had him down here, going to be absent, not absent. We have Dr. Charlie Parakas. Please stand. Otherwise known as Pathos, the Greek philosopher. Retired physician from Maine and animal tracking specialist, and it was kind of neat to travel with our own physician. That was good. That was good. Snakes and such. All right. All right. So finally, we were led by two amazing, knowledgeable, caring, guiding experts, and I write down here. I do not have time today to do justice to all of their accomplishments and achievements. They are amazing. And I've got to be brief, and you're probably thinking we're already beyond that. Kersey Lawrence, please. One of the most highly qualified trackers in the world, with experience on 2 continents, Africa and North America. Currently a PhD candidate at UConn and also a teacher at University of Connecticut. So thank you, Kersey. And then, one of the top 7 most qualified trackers in the world. And I want to know, are you 1 or 7? No, just kidding. Amazing, okay. And author of 5 different field guides, and 2 more are in the process. And by the way, one of those actually we used for 3 weeks. There, it is our Bible, and it's amazing information. It's so helpful. We were blessed. Lee Goodrich, please stand. All right, so I would like to introduce our first presenters, our journalists.
As you know, we're the South African group, and yeah, so let's get started. We are the journalists.
So this is what we did as journalists. As journalists, we recorded the events, conversations, encounters, and thoughts that occurred since our trial trip to Cape Cod in May. We wrote rough drafts of the group's experiences in our journals and converted them to online documents for Kersey Lawrence to edit. In addition, us journalists took pictures of the adventures. The blog soon became a beautiful compilation of words and pictures, many of which were contributed by other group members. Kersey posted our final masterpieces to her blog, originalwisdom.com. Check it out and see our work.
Here we have some pictures. You guys are going to see a lot more throughout the presentation. But the top left one is basically a picture of the interior of where we stayed. On the outsides, there's like little dorms, I guess, and then in the middle there's an open gathering place with a fire pit and some tables along with chairs. The top right is a picture of Michelle along with our student from South Africa, Mklavasi. I think that's how you pronounce it, right? There we go. So, yeah, she stayed with us for the majority of the trip. And she had to go through a similar process that we did to sign up through applications and whatnot.
Okay, so why journaling? Well, despite the aching hands and tired eyes that came with the late hours of journaling in camp, having the opportunity to blog about our experiences was a great pleasure for me. I now have 2 journals packed with detailed stories and reflections of our 3.5-week journey. Blogging allowed me to digest the overwhelming and incredible sights internally and share them with the world externally. I felt honored to have the ability to work alongside Zach and Kirsty to connect with our loved ones back at home. As time passes and memories fade, I'm pleased to know that I have these words to reflect upon. I'll feel the warm South African breeze and the coarse sand between my toes once again. The lions calling in the distance will echo in my mind like a nostalgic symphony of my most recent adventures.
Why journaling continue? Journaling, in my mind, is a way to prevent memories that you made, in this case, South Africa, from basically disappearing, being replaced by other memories. So it's a way to hold on to in great detail these memories that we've made. It also forced me to slow down the very fast-paced journey, because we went on 2 5 to 6 hour safaris every day. It was pretty fast-paced and pretty intense. Lots of things to do. So it was a way to slow your process of thinking down and take in all the details, little things that you wouldn't really get to see. Plus, you get to see them and look back out on them for many years to come. So here is a couple of excerpts from our blog. You guys should really check it out. But my excerpt is about one of our many encounters with a herd of elephants. It reads, as we drove along the road, the vehicle became engulfed in a herd of elephants. Some were so close to us that if you reached your arm out, you could touch them. All in all, it was not too shabby of a 4th of July. While I originally thought I might have missed having a barbecue and a firework display, seeing all the big 5 in one day, that was pretty intense. And it was another spectacular African sunset to top it all off. Tons of little things along the route was an amazing substitute for 4th of July.
And then my excerpt was about our first experience watching a lion feed on a Cape buffalo. So, a female ferociously climbed into the carcass while the other focused on the hip. Not long after, a young adult male intruded for his own dining pleasure. He yanked, he grumbled, he tore at the veal, presenting the power of his muscular structure for anyone who would watch. And we did watch, in speechless awe. It was a brilliant and eye-opening representation of the science of survival in the circle of life. These are the lessons we traveled halfway across the planet for. This is why we are in South Africa. These are a couple pictures of the vehicles that we were in while we were in South Africa. It's kind of fun to point out that there are no windows, and there's plenty of room for everyone. And if you look on the left picture, you can see that we are quite close to the lions. This is also a picture of a herd of impala bum. These are more pictures of the animals we saw. On the top right, you'll see a newborn hyena, which was a really interesting experience to see how they grew over our experience.
Thank you guys.
Art component of our trip, along with Carnivorous, who was from Hopkinton. This picture up here, it kind of looks like Michelle, but it was just like a random person that I took a picture of because I thought it was kind of cool. It's a cool picture. So while we were in South Africa, we used like photography and other creative components to enhance our experience. So I'm just going to talk about that. Alright, why art? Art was a useful tool over there because it we were able to like emphasize patterns, details, and other stories that might have gone unnoticed otherwise. And studying local art gave a better understanding of the community and their connection with the environment. Alright, so I'm just going to talk about some of the certain things that we did. Before using photographs to study nature, scientists use sketches to catalog different structures and stuff like that when studying nature. So I did a few sketches of bone structures that we saw when we were there. These were things that we grabbed while out in the field and brought back. So that was a vertebrate that we couldn't quite identify, and that was a giraffe skull that we found that was it was huge. And these are some sketches by Michelle. That was a stick bug and a tree frog. Another benefit to using art was that we were able to get really cool patterns in some of our photographs. So the one on the left is a picture of algae in a watering hole that we saw. I thought it was kind of cool. And the one on the right is a star trail. Doesn't really show up on my projector that well, but. And here are a few more. Michelle took that really cool one where the light's going through the trees. Maddie Kenmore took a really cool exposure of the sky. And Mr. Gross, I really like that one because you can kind of see the texture of the elephant's skin. That was cool. Another thing with the local art, often drew upon nature for inspiration, used a lot of the organic materials and scenes found in nature as inspiration. So the one on the left is some of the women that worked on our camp also wove placemats, and I bought one and brought one home for my mom, and that was made out of soda, not soda, chip bags and sticks, and it was woven together, and that was really cool. And another thing that we saw a lot that I couldn't get a picture of from the locals was carving in wood, and definitely made a ring out of a tree nut, and that's a picture of him modeling his ring. Another thing is that art can capture stories. I put these two pictures together just because they were really cute. There's a lioness with a cub, and that first one they're kind of cuddling a little bit, and the second one, the cub's just bothering the mom and stepping all over it. Yeah, and here's some more. Mr. Groves took some really cool shots of the people over there. That was us at our campfire. And this was really local children. Some more pictures of the animals. And also, I asked everybody to send me their favorite photographs that they took over there with a little caption. I also pulled some off of people's Facebooks, which was probably a little creepy, but. Alright, Mr. Groves, he took a picture and captioned it, "This just strikes me, a challenging life that those outside the Djuma Reserve must live, in stark contrast to the visitors kicking up dust in their faces as they whiz by in comfortable air-conditioned carriages." Michelle and Leo, I already used this picture, but I thought it was pretty cool, so I used it twice. Our first afternoon sunrise glistens to the gate of Sunrock Guest House in Juneburg, sending a good omen for the remainder of the journey. Marcel Duquesne. I love it because giraffes seem to be overlooked by everyone, but they are graceful, beautiful, and can still kick and fight if they are threatened. Mr. Duquesne also took this. That was kind of a cool shot. I'm just going to summarize this one, but it's a good photo of us putting together a rhino skeleton that had been poached, and it was a really good reflection of our teamwork and how we all worked together over the course of June, kind of what Holly was saying. After an adventurous day in Africa, I am awe-struck by an amazing sunset, a daily reminder of all the beauty around us while we were in Djuma. Another one of Maddie relating to us. Kelly Smith. I'm going to summarize this one too, but we did this thing called a sit spot where we just sat in nature and observed that around us, and she stumbled upon a giraffe while in her sit spot, which is kind of cool. And that was mine. I was taking pictures of the sky and somebody walked past, but it was kind of cool. And this is actually Kristy's picture of a cool bug that we saw. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it was like a scorpion. Yeah. And
what it means to be an anthropologist is the comparative study of human societies and culture and their development over time. Anthropologists like to take the unfamiliar and make them familiar, especially when it comes to exploring different cultures. This way we can learn about ourselves and others. And this picture right here is actually Michelle, Drew, and Delaney's feet. And as you can see, there's no fence in this place, so it's pretty scary. Anyway, some of the traditional culture views and things that was different was the traditional men, they usually have many wives if they can afford to, and how they do that is they pay the family with cattle. And it was very common, but it's also hard to maintain that because if you couldn't afford another wife, you could not have one. Every community had a traditional healer. It was really cool. We actually had Charlie go see one. We don't know what for, so it's a little bit mysterious. They have lots of respect for their elders. Like here, we like to say that we like our elders, but most of us can be disrespectful to our parents. But over there in South Africa, every single person is extremely respectful to their parents. Soccer, everyone plays soccer there. They were so good, and they beat Con's butt. They were really good. They also try to look really nice every day, so on like our Mondays, we might be tired and go to sweatpants, like wear sweatpants to school, but there they would never dare to wear sweatpants because everyone has a uniform that they have to wear. And there is some police corruption there, which is kind of scary to think of. Some of the language that Mklabasi spoke was Chitonga. I'm not very good at speaking it. I tried my hardest. She made fun of me very hard. But some of the ways you can pronounce these words is Kunjani, which means hello and how are you. The next one I don't know how to pronounce, so I'm not going to do that one. But Ikomo means thank you. Nico means I am fine. And I can't say cat either, but I like cats, so I wanted to learn how to say that one. And then Nico Kunjani means I'm fine and you. So this is, we did a group interview with Mklabasi about her life. And she has 3 brothers. Her mom is a primary school teacher, and she goes to the Math, Science, and Technology private school, which is funded by many organizations and local private reserves. Her mother has been a huge influence on her life, teaching her respect and value. She wants to become a neurologist, but somebody change that, sorry. It says neurologist. But anyway, she wants to become a neurologist, but she realizes that dream is hard to obtain because of the resources that she has, and she has lots of respect for everyone. Yuri. So this is Yuri and Candace. Yuri is the owner of Djuma, and he funds the school that Mklabasi goes to. He doesn't fund all of it, but he funds a large portion of it. And Yuri actually was a prisoner of war during the apartheid, so we got to do a very nice interview with him and ask him tons of questions. And for those of you who don't know, the apartheid in South Africa was when the blacks and whites were separated, and it was very difficult for black people to have any type of life whatsoever. So he fought for them and ended up going to prison for some years, and now he gives back to the community, and he is a wonderful, extremely cool dude. I love him. More pictures of what our staying habits look like. The 2 pictures are both sides of the camp, and then you see a picture of one of our rooms. Some of us had green sheets and the others had blue sheets. It was very plain and simple rooms. Not a lot of bugs in there, so don't freak out if you want to go. That was one of my worries, was bugs, but Lee took care of that if we had bugs. So we went to the high school and we taught some students how to use ArcGIS, which was a voluntary class for them to take with us. And you can see their computer lab, and then me with some of the students. We were just talking about boys. We weren't working right then. The school is called Acorns to Oaks, which I think is a great statement for that school, because if you think of it, acorns are these little innocent things that can be crushed easily, and then they turn into these big, huge oak trees, which is a beautiful thing, because these little kids, and they go to the school, and they learn how to become strong, independent adults. And that's Delaney learning some dances. She's dancing. And then this is on Nelson Mandela Day, and they have it because of Nelson Mandela's 27 years in prison. He asked for everyone to do 67 minutes of community service on his birthday. So we went out and we did 67 minutes of community service with the local area. Last year when the Yukon students did the same trip, they went and did this, and now this year the community organized it itself and invited us back, which is a great thing to see because that means that the community is being observant of what's going on. And this is what a local town looks like. You can see a mother walking with her 2 children and people drying their clothes out on a fence. And that's a local store, so that's where you get your clothes, your food, everything. And women have to walk sometimes miles to get water to feed their family. And here you can see an unfinished house, which is very common because a big family gets together and they start to build a house, but then they run out of funds, so they just leave it. And my next picture is a family building their own bricks, which everyone does there. Here, we don't build our own bricks, but over there, they build their own bricks and build everything themselves. And this was a group photo of us at the school with all the kids, and I'm gonna forever remember them. They have made a change on me, and I hope that I've made a positive change on them.
I'm Carmen. This is Sam, and we're in charge of data collection. So we had 2 main collection methods, and one that we got the most data from was by using a GPS app put on by ArcGIS, where we can collect data points throughout the reserve and monitor sightings and signs of the different animals. Over the course of 3 weeks, we collected an astounding 383 data points, which we didn't even think we would be able to achieve such an amazing number. So here's a couple screenshots of the collection app that we used. The first one on the left is what the map would look like as you were monitoring it. Before going on the trip, we had to download these maps onto our phones where we had a good internet connection, and depending on the size that you made it, it could be up to 1.5 gigabytes. So then the second picture is a view of the actual collection data that we could choose. So we put things in such as the date. We could even add a picture to it of the animal. And then we would go through the certain lists, like you see on the right, and pick the different species that we saw.
All right, so these are some examples of some of the many different pictures that we took. This one here on the top left, sorry, the computer there. Top left would be a bachelor herding impala, which was a fairly common sight. I'd say it was what, about 50 to 70% of the data we got was all from impala, which tracks with. There's a nice, wonderful close-up of another kind of antelope, which Carmen will now tell me in my ear very subtly, so I don't know it. That is a common diker, of course. On the bottom left, we have a zebra. Yes, it is pronounced zebra. No, I won't say it's zebra. I don't care if it's annoying. It's just correct. And on the bottom right, we have a herd of giraffe. So, not all of our trail cameras exactly survive the process. This was our one unfortunate casualty, although we did have another taken down. This one was completely and entirely obliterated. So that wonderful animal there is the spotted hyena. There were several dens in the area. Well, there was one den in the area, but there were several dens around. And as you can see, he didn't like it so much. I don't think, like the color, position, whatever it was. He came over, checked it out, sniffed it a little bit, and chewed it to pieces. We found it, the cover was entirely ripped off. You can see there in the bottom right, the locking mechanism of the camera. And the SD card thankfully survived, so we have, I don't know, several hundred pictures of this wonderful animal's nose. Which is quite nice to see. But yeah, no, we, like one other animal, did we ever determine, was that how you named it? I believe it was. Yeah, I don't know, maybe you just want to look at the pictures. So, map data. We, of course, as we said, well over 300 points. We have it here on the site this week, which may take forever to load and not work at all after going live. Well, this is loading. A. B. We took, or rather, the trail cameras took over 5,000 pictures, which sounds like quite a lot, until you consider that maybe 30 of them per camera were actually members. The rest was, I don't know if we have this here in America, we're still looking at this wonderful plant called grass, waving in the breeze. So that's not going to happen because computers hate us. Too bad.
Yeah, so we did the naturalist guild, which is where we were. As the naturalist guild, we identified the species we saw and recorded the sightings. So we had there are carnivores and omnivorous mammals, and what you'll see in the battle far away, cheetah too. So like the carnivores were like the big five, which were rhino, elephant, lion, cave buffalo, leopard, and that's it for the big five. And then there are some other ones that we saw: spotted hyena, cheetah one day, just right back. And we saw the lizard, baby bush, a civet, dwarf mongoose, slender mongoose, and white-tailed mongoose. These are my photos. And herbivores, which were elephants, zebra, kudu, Indiana, impala, buffalo, rhino, and giraffe. All those. And there were photos of elephants in there. And then that, okay. So that was the day we went to this place where we could ride elephants, and there was. And as you can see on one of them, there was some of our, there were two trips. We went down around, down there, around, come back up, and then bring us, and then take us off there. That's how, and then they did a second loop around that. And those are some of the birds.
Alright, so at Djuma we had the opportunity to see well over 100 bird species, including the gray heron, the lilac-breasted roller, the Egyptian goose, bearded woodpecker, yellow-billed hornbill, African crowned eagle, hooded vulture, pearl-spotted owlet, African harrier hawk, and saddle-billed stork.
did you see? How many did you see?
Personally, I saw 101 bird species. I don't know a total of everyone, but. So that right there, I believe, is the black crown. Sorry, fork-tailed drongo. Alright, so we went on a couple of day trips outside of the nature reserve. That was again on our trip to the elephant. Driving pictures. Nice waterfall that we drove by a couple of times. Alright, I'll hand it over to Joshua.
Good morning. A year ago, I was sitting in a Jeep in a seat just like you are, and I was listening to people talk about South Africa, and my heart was full of excitement because of it. I hope that is being conveyed to some of you here today, and that you will consider joining this group and have an experience like we had. I didn't know any of these people well. Maybe I knew 2 of these people that you see on the screen at that point, but we became very close over those 3 weeks that we were together. I had no idea of what I would see and the things that I would experience in South Africa. I found a really good friend in South Africa. I also worked on my tan with the lions and the elephants. I did a study on our group, and one of the things that I was looking at was how does a group work together and how do they accomplish goals? When we were together after a week, we decided that we needed to sit down as a group and talk about how we did things and what we wanted to accomplish. So one of the things that we looked at was, what are the strengths of our group? We identified strengths as intellectual conversations. We had a lot of humor together. We all had a love of nature. There was diversity in our group. There was also curiosity. After we thought about the strengths, we looked at what are the roadblocks to our group? What is going to keep us from being successful? What are the kind of things that get in the way? Our group identified that we are all individuals, and sometimes the individual aspect of ourselves gets in the way of the group. Consideration of other people's opinions. Socialization, you could probably relate to that and how that might get in the way of the group. We also felt that we had a lack of time to reflect on what was going on around us. Then, of course, there was some power versus contemplation. Once we had looked at our strengths, and then we had considered what were our roadblocks, we decided we needed to have some personal commitment to doing some things that would help our group succeed in the projects that we had set out for ourselves. Each member of the group decided that they wanted to do something individually and work on a piece of themselves. So they set up a goal for themselves. All of the members of our team sat down with a pencil and paper and they reflected on their own personal growth that they wanted to achieve during this trip. They wrote out their goal and we hung them on the fence out of camp. Then we broke as a group. And at the end of the group, I reminded everyone, please take some time every once in a while to look at your goal on the fence. So a couple of days went by, and I said, have you looked at your bowl lately? 2 different people, and they said they had, and they reminded themselves to do that again. I want to share with you that each person on this trip grew personally. They set high goals for themselves in this process, and they took time and they looked at how can I be a better person so that I can make a difference in this trip, in this group, in this team. And they, every one of them worked and achieved their goal. One day we were out, and Lee and Kirsty took us to the site of the rhino poaching. And what you see here is us sitting around an old termite mound, and Lee is talking to us about the origin of man as a species. We were sitting where the original man had walked. And one of the things that I really love about this picture is if you look right there, you see our guard. Kirsty is making sure that we're being taken care of while we're sitting there learning. I always felt very safe. Thank you. The thing that I saw from this group was an evolution. Just as man has evolved and become what you see here today, our group evolved from, I think there was maybe 18 of us all together, 18 individuals to a group who was very close to each other, learned a lot, saw many things that we could not imagine that we would ever see, and experienced things that you might only dream of. This young lady came with us for 3 weeks. As you heard, Kubasi was a student at the school that we visited, and she touched all of our hearts. There's a lot of us who are Facebook friends with her. We talk to her often, and that's the beauty of the social media that I treasure, because even though we're on the opposite side of the world, we are still very connected to this wonderful, beautiful, and big trip. Here we are, our last day. I think this was probably, what, 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 maybe? We were standing at the fence of our camp. We were getting ready to load up into the trucks and come home. It was a wonderful experience. I really hope that some of you will consider joining this and having this opportunity for an extended learning opportunity that will touch your life and change you forever.
Thanks, Bob, everybody. That was awesome. 2 things here that come to mind. I got a little shout out to Sadie here. Mr. Ruhaim and Sadie, the entire 3 weeks we were there, we used to see Mr. Ruhaim. He's got the, you guys know him, right? Got the journal going, logging every new bird he saw. And you don't know what his number was at the end? Well over 100. Yeah. And Sadie on the way out, we're driving to the airport, Johannesburg. She had like, I don't know, I got 97. I need 198, write that down, and she got 101, and that was fun. So I can see the list was amazing. The other thing that I don't know, it actually didn't show up here, but it was really cool for about a day and a half. We had intensive wilderness first aid training, to the point where we actually had to go out and save people. Mr. Ruhaim actually coincidentally was one of them. Michelle was another as well. So, a fantastic experience, and that was actually right after the individual actually who facilitated that showed us in front of us just like this. Mambas, and cobras, and puff adders. Everybody in the group got to experience that and hold them, actually by way of snakes, they would say. But actually, it's right there in front of them. It was a fabulous experience. Finally, to finish this, we had a video clip for you. It was actually professionally prepared. The videographer followed us in the field. No, quiet. you'll miss the sounds that we heard throughout the 3 weeks.
See what the animals have been rubbing against it. And I think, whenever you see a herd of buffalo going through, you'll see thousands of those small flies. You have a look on their horns as well. Virtually all of them have polished horns.
Animals can have 3 lobes on their feet that show up in the track occasionally.
See what?
It's the bigger one.
Oh, it is.
This is your civet track here next to you.
Okay, he wants to touch it. Surprisingly, this is more than likely one of the snakes you come across most often because it is large and relatively slow moving.
How tall are you? We just told them he was a dwarf.
Like that. There we go. That's cool. I think these are stopped and did like a little bum wiggle. Could also be a case of the adult females raising younger cubs. So maybe they just don't want to associate with these young hooligans.
You gotta toast them perfectly.
Michelle, you in a rush?
I don't like it. I like it burn. I want it.
a big cow there. Look at those massive tusks, eh?
We'll have to do a sling.
All right.
One, two, three. Yeah, move the board down to her head. Her head's not on it.
Turn her.
Where atoms come together? Yes. Okay, folks, we want to thank you before you leave. Okay, before you leave, we want to thank you for coming. Certainly, we're on time in terms of break. I know that Lee and Kirsty will be here to answer questions. All here to answer questions. You want to come up during break for a little while? You've got some information that you can perhaps come and get later next week on Wednesday. On Wednesday at break, I will hold an informational meeting. Anybody thinking, want to know more, talk to me one-on-one, and I might have some of our buddies come through there as well. So that's out there. I want to notice how to get it so you don't forget. Okay?